Welcome to episode 179 of the weekly Shared Security Show. And joining me this week is Kevin Johnson and Scott Wright. I know
folks.
This is shocking. I don't have a fancy intro this time.
I thought we were going to have a fancy intro for Kevin, or did you do it last week?
I do one every week for Kevin, but I'm taking the week off.
I thought we were going to introduce him as the only security researcher that can embarrass the other security researchers with ice cream tests, right? Free ice cream test. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That is true. That is true. Kevin, do you have a comment about that or no?
Do you remember that? It was 2 weeks ago. I was listening to your the episode a couple weeks ago, and you said something about you took your kids out for ice cream, and you used the test of would they lick the ice cream within the first 30 seconds of having been given free ice cream. It was a comparison to the test of if somebody gets invited or something, or they're gonna click.
Yeah.
The restaurant across the street from your work. Yeah.
It's been a long 2 weeks.
Yeah. No, Kevin's had a rough week. So
I've had a rough week. I'm sick. We'll just leave it at I'm sick.
We're just not hitting on all cylinders today.
No.
And I would argue I don't hit on all cylinders most days. So
it's just lately it's, a couple more cylinders. That's all.
Yeah. So. I'm down to one. Is a one cylinder engine worth anything? I don't know much about cars.
On a moped.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't even hear about it. Do you know those ramps that come off of trailers?
Yes.
Yeah, I had one of them take the mirror off my car.
Oh, Thanks. The Tesla?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't take evasive action?
I did. I was on autopilot and I saw the ramp on the ground, and I turned off autopilot and went to go around it. And the reason I did it is I assume autopilot would just run things over, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just something in the road, a stick, right? I don't know.
Like, so you're taught not to evade groundhogs and things.
Yeah, something. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't evade the geese that walk across the road all the time on the way to the office. So I went to go around it, and looking at the video, what it looks like happened was the car ahead of me hit it. And while I would have missed it, it was moving, and I clipped it with my tire, and it flipped up. And man, it took that mirror right off. Like, it was just like, wham.
I guess one way to look at it is that maybe you're lucky it only took the mirror.
I thought it trashed the entire side of the car. I was like, oh my gosh. And the only thing damaged was it knocked the mirror. And the Tesla replaced the mirror this morning. And,
that's good. Because I've heard of if you have some major damage on a Tesla, it takes months sometimes to get parts. And
the only problem is, so the mirror comes, they call it two parts. I'm assuming it's way more than two parts, but you've got the mirror assembly, and then you have a cap that is the color of your car, right? Like Okay, so so they delayed, the appointment was supposed to be on Tuesday. They delayed it till today because they didn't have the parts. Coworker took it down. I'm actually letting a coworker drive the car because his car got struck by lightning. It's another whole story. And he gets there, and they're like, "Hey, we're really sorry, but we don't have the gray. It's like a midnight silver gray or something like that. I don't know, made up color names. They had a black cap." So they said, no charge. Next week when the gray one comes in, we'll come to your office and we'll just swap it out. And like, okay, man.
At least you get a cover of some kind. You don't have to go around like the Terminator with the skeleton showing,
Yeah, exactly. And it's now legal to drive the car again since it's illegal to drive.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I'm not saying that nobody's driven the car. I'm just going to say that may not have been appropriate.
That's right. That's right. So we have a couple stories to talk about. The first one here, this happened a few weeks ago, but I did want to bring it up because I thought it was worthy of at least having a conversation about. And that was, President Joe Biden over here had gone over to meet Putin, and they had a conversation about cybersecurity. And I found it fascinating that the outcome of that meeting was Biden giving Putin this list of 16 critical infrastructure sectors that are off limits to from nation state hacking or nation state sponsored hacking or whatever we want to call it. And so, of course, threatening that, we have massive cybersecurity capability if, you violate that. But I kind of want to bring this up as a talking point because I find it interesting of, okay, how many times have we done this kind of with
drawing
the
line in the sand? Yeah.
Yes. And saying, don't
illegal,
touch
right?
this stuff. Right.
Yeah. Marijuana is illegal. Racism is wrong.
7 words you can't say on TV.
7 words you can't say on TV. I mean, this is, I'm sorry. I nothing political because I didn't vote for or against. Well, I guess I did vote against him because I voted for the Libertarian candidate. But this has nothing to do with Biden, but it's all an act. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh no, don't do that. Let's look back in history and tell me how many times it has been effective for the leader of one nation to go to another nation and say, this thing you're doing, stop it. Right.
Yeah. I think it's more of a protocol thing, right? It's like, okay, we can say this, now we can do this and we can do this. And we can do this.
It's like I tell my staff, right? Our dress code at work. You can't wear clear pants when you come to the office.
Only Hawaiian shirts.
Right, only Hawaiian shirts.
He's not really serious.
No clear pants. You can't wear pajamas and clear pants to the office. And
what are clear pants?
I don't know.
I don't even want to know.
Let's just go with it, right? It's the actual policy. Okay. We tell people not to do things we know they won't do, or we so that when they do it, we can say, well, we told you not to, right? That's it. That's the only purpose of this. This was, hey, when we do something in retaliation for this, we at least warned you. Yeah, that's all. Beyond that, this is useless. It gets some attention for Biden. It gets some what have you. My daughter just walked in. By the way, we're recording a podcast. Thank you very much. Wow. Oh man, that was my daughter Sarah. I don't know if you could see.
Yeah, I know Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Well, of course you know Sarah.
Yep. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, maybe at some point we'll end up in cybersecurity peace talks or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like, here's the 16 most critical infrastructure areas of the country that you can attack now. And anyone else, these are our most valuable assets.
It's like, do anything you want, but don't go in the closet.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so. I mean, I don't know. When you were a kid, how many times were you told, like, don't eat those cookies? Right,
I ate the cookies.
Exactly. The cookies were delicious. I don't know. I don't know. I think this is one of those. I find that at the national level, international level, whatever, when you start talking about what did Biden do for this thing, the vast majority of it is just so somebody can say, "Look, we tried." And I'm very cynical about this kind of stuff. I don't believe that. I don't believe that every attack is the Russians or every attack is the Chinese, but I also know for a fact that there is nation state hacking. And if you think somehow that some article where Biden says to Putin, don't do that, please, means he's going to stop, then I'm sorry, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
We all understand.
Oh yes. So we went. We had mentioned in previous episodes about ransomware. So we talked a lot about ransomware because there were big hacks going on. I mean, there's always ransomware attacks, but this was an interesting story. I think maybe Scott, or I think you had sent this out about this survey that was done on actual companies and organizations that have had ransomware incidents or attacks. And they surveyed them and they found that 8 in 10 organizations in this survey group, they actually paid the ransom demand and were attacked a second time.
Yeah. Often by the same group that attacked them the first time.
Yeah.
While I love this survey, the first thing I thought of when I read this was, I mean, I thought we all knew this. Right? Like every organization I've worked with, that has paid the ransom, contrary to my advice. I don't advise paying the ransom, and I understand. I read on Twitter from somebody, they were like, no, people who say don't pay the ransom really don't understand business. Like, yes, you are right. I cannot make an absolute claim, never pay the ransom. There are times where it maybe makes sense. But history has shown that the vast majority of time, you pay the ransom, you still don't get your data back. You still don't get a recovery key that works. Because in many cases, the ransomware gang doesn't even have a recovery key that works, right? And you've proven to them you will. And so it's a much higher chance that they'll come after you a second time or third time or fourth time. I just, I get it. You're in the situation. You haven't prepped for it. That was your mistake. You didn't prep for it, right? Like it just irritates me that we spend so much. First off, it irritates me that ransomware gangs are doing this stuff. I get it. They make lots of money, but damn it, stop being assholes. Sorry. It just, the rest of the survey is fascinating. I mean, that part is fascinating as well, but 26% of the organizations were forced to close down operations entirely. Like that's higher than I thought it was. I mean, I knew companies had been put out of business, right? Like they got hit with ransomware, they couldn't recover, they paid the ransomware, they didn't pay the ransom, but 26%, that's just over 1 in 4. If I'm doing, right. I'm doing that math right.
Now, to be clear, is that shut down operations temporarily or permanently?
It says entirely, so
it doesn't say
that as permanently, but I don't know, right? Like,
because there's an interesting statistic that you could kind of compare this to with small businesses. There's a stat, I can't remember which company did the survey, but it says 60% of small businesses that get hit with a security breach are out of business in 6 months.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a similar thing. You could say, well, 25% of all businesses that get hit with ransomware are out of business, but that seems almost hard to believe, right? Just in terms of the number we've seen.
But I think the question there goes into, okay, but why did they go out of business, right? Because as a small business owner, Scott, you're in the same position I am, right? Tom, you've worked with enough small businesses, you know how this works. Many of us are on the brink of going out of business anyways. I mean, I'm happy to say that Secure Ideas is not. I'm hopeful that ClickArmor is not. But you know what I mean? Like so many companies I talk to,
it's the risk environment, right? So in a small business, there are just so many more risks that you have to face anyway. Ransomware is just another one, right?
I disagree with that. There's more risk. I think the problem is it's not that there's more risk. There's less to be able to handle the risk.
Less tolerance. Yeah.
Less tolerance. Yes. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word.
I think that's the way I meant to say it. So
yeah.
Kevin and I finally agree on something.
I would argue we agree quite often. I'll tell you something I know we agree on, that everybody should hire ClickArmor. But
that's the most important one for you to agree on.
Exactly. Right. But yeah, like the same thing here, like 29% laid off employees. Okay, that sucks. But did they lay them off because of the ransomware attack? Did they, 32% lost C-level talent. Now that's a very interesting wording, because I'll tell you right now, if I was the CSO of an organization and they got hit by ransomware, they paid the ransom, and it was obvious that the reason they got hit was because of them not paying attention to the advice I was giving as a CISO, and they continued to not give care to the advice I gave as the CISO, I'd leave. I'd leave not because they got hit with ransomware, but because I was useless there. And I don't want to be places I'm useless, right? That's why I help with the laundry so infrequently. But that's not true. But yeah, I do hate one of the survey parts. 53% of organizations' brand and reputation were damaged in a successful attack. I'm sorry, that's BS. It is. That 53% of people said their brand and reputation were damaged. Whatever. Did your sales go down?
Did people stop buying from you? 66% lost revenue.
Yeah, but lost revenue, great. So I shut down for 2 weeks to handle the ransomware. There's lost revenue, right? That
definitely.
Yeah. So I would argue 100% lost revenue based on that. Right?
Yeah. I mean, these surveys can be subjective and, opinionated, but yeah, I think it's a fascinating, and we'll link this in the show notes, and the audience can make their own conclusions on this. But yeah, interesting nonetheless.
Yeah.
Spring and summer are upon us, and that means it's time for some much-needed vacation time with friends and family. But this also means that you need to be aware of data privacy and how to protect your laptops, smartphones, and key fobs while traveling. Airports and other public areas can often be targeted by attackers looking to gain access to your devices through their wireless signals. So instead of worrying about disabling or turning off wireless functions, it's so much easier to place them in a Faraday bag when they're not being used. And if you want the best protection that you can get, you want to be using Silent Pocket's premium Faraday bag product line that blocks all wireless signals. So don't forget to get yourself a Faraday bag before you head out on your vacation. And right now, you can use discount code SharedSecurity and receive 10% off your order during checkout at silentpocket.com.
You want your organization to be secure and compliant and to have a healthy culture, but your employees' lack of awareness makes you vulnerable to data theft, fraud, and compliance penalties. It's frustrating that the boring static training content that's being used today has failed to improve employees' ability to defend against cyber attacks. At ClickArmor, we know that without using gamification, it's extremely hard to get staff to understand how to avoid threats. Our gamified simulations and challenges have provided a 50% average improvement in thousands of employees' ability to spot phishing threats. Go to clickarmor.ca/sharedsecurity to get your free gamified phishing assessment for up to 500 employees. You'll see quickly how gamified simulations can help your team be more resilient and compliant and help avoid costly ransomware and fraud incidents. Let ClickArmor help you go from being an underappreciated, stressed out fall guy to being an innovative leader who's the catalyst for greater productivity in your organization.
There was another article.
Yeah, there was something else we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we wanted to talk the article. This was on Brian Krebs' website. Some reporting that he did on how cyber safe is your drinking water supply, and of course the headline caught my attention because anything with cyber in it.
Oh yeah.
Instantly, ooh, cyber. You cyberfied something. We need to talk about that.
And we're supposed to be the authorities on that, aren't we?
That's right.
Oh, wait, whoa. I'm supposed to be an authority?
Except for you.
Dang it. Oh, good.
Sorry.
Good. I don't want that responsibility.
No, definitely not. But this Water Sector Coordinating Council, which I've actually never heard of them, but they're an actual real thing, real entity.
Yeah.
What was that?
They're NISAC.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But they surveyed around 600 employees of water and wastewater treatment facilities and found 37.9% utilities have identified all IT networked assets with an additional 21.7% working towards that goal. So what that means is 52,000 separate drinking water systems in the US still haven't inventoried any of their information systems.
A majority of them.
Yes, large majority.
Can we first talk about the fact that there are 52,000 separate water systems in the US?
That's what I wanted to call attention to as well.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
How many do you have in Canada?
7? No, I'm just kidding.
7.
Is that all government run?
I'm not that surprised. I mean, it's probably think of the problem with transporting wind energy or whatever, right? It's the transmission problem, right? You have to generate it somewhere near where it's needed, and water's got to be worse than that, right? I mean, you can only process water where it is. You're not going to ship it somewhere centrally so you can redistribute it. So anyway, I don't
see. I disagree, and here's why I disagree. Obviously, I'm wrong. Let's be point. I'm wrong. There's 52,000 of the damn things. But yes, water you generate, you collect, you process locally, right? We don't have water pipelines, right? Like but 52,000. Let me give you another quote. I just did a quick Google search. There's only 3,300 electric companies in the US.
Wow.
Which is still more than I thought.
Still a lot. Yeah.
Right. Still more than I thought. But like 52,000, that means for each
1,000
state,
per state. Yeah.
You have more than 1,000 per state. Yeah. Right. Because I don't know if they're talking about the territories with that number. Right. If they are, then that number changes. But that's nuts. Florida has 76, just picking on Florida. Florida has 76 counties. I don't know why that's stuck in my head, but it is. That means you have separate water companies per city in some cases, right?
And they're all run differently.
They're all managed separately. No wonder they're cybersecurity. Like we expect them to be able to handle cybersecurity when.
On the bright side, I would say the fact that you don't have all this consolidation, you don't have one company controlling 25 or 30 separate water systems. Right. You probably don't have as big a target in any one of them. It's like the election problem, right? You can't hack the election because there's so many disparate polling stations and
multiple
systems.
Targets.
Yeah, you got many targets,
maybe,
but not one big one you're going to go after.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, there's pros and cons, I guess.
I mean, the same systems are going to be connected to the internet, right?
Well, the other thing is, in a more consolidated system, you're really expecting everything's going to be connected to the internet. I bet in 70 or 80% of the small municipalities, their water systems may not even be connected to the internet at all.
So.
Yeah,
there may be some smaller ones. Yeah, and if you read into the article, they talk about there were cases. I mean, recently, they brought up the one in Florida that we talked about on the show, the Oldsmar, Florida breach, and then there was another one. Ironically, in both those cases, it was TeamViewer that had a weak password and caused all the problems. Remote access to said systems, right?
Yeah.
is usually the culprit. But it is interesting to think if, and I guess I'm going back to when we had talked about like state and local municipalities, small towns, small cities, they don't have the IT staff, let alone cybersecurity staff, to properly secure and maintain these systems. So now we're talking about 52,000 or more in a varied state of security, and IT is a little concerning.
Yeah. It would have been interesting to see a few more questions in that survey that sort of categorized people as to, or the systems.
Yeah. But I think it's a broader conversation about, and I'm sure you have this in Canada too, Scott, where, it's just, there's not enough funding, right, for these smaller cities.
Yeah. Well, if you read through the thing, right, there was the Water Infrastructure Act of 2018. I'm quoting, I didn't memorize that, right? But it only covers utilities serving 3,300 more and tens of thousands. It's the estimate is 40,000 of the utilities serve less than 3,300 people, right? Yeah. So they have no oversight requirements.
Zero.
To report, and I'm the last person to say government should get involved, but right, I think this is really one of those cases of not the sky is falling, because that's crap, but we as security people need to really reach out and try to help these organizations, right?
Yeah,
I and I'll put it out there, any utility that is serving 3,300 or less, or let's just do 10,000 or less people, call me. We'll help you figure out what you need to do next.
And I'll set up a utility gamified challenge for awareness for
those
same groups. There we go.
I like this.
Yeah. So let's put our money where our mouths are. I'm willing to dedicate consultants to it.
What do you win with, Tom?
Just promotion and
I
can't speak for my company.
Just be clear, we can pick on Tom, but Tom's in a position where he's not the owner of the company.
I know.
Just make those kind of declarations.
I'm the only owner without a company here. Oh,
just kidding.
No, I think it's a great idea, guys. And I really there needs to be more attention on that infrastructure. I think it's a huge gap that doesn't get enough attention, and it's a large problem worldwide. It's a large problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
let's fix it.
Yes. So I think that's the 3 topics for today. So
not going to talk about John McAfee.
Oh, we can mention John McAfee.
He died.
Quick. Yeah.
We think.
And I bring it up because he's kind of a in the cyber community, he's very well known. Obviously, starting McAfee antivirus back in the day, he sold that off, and then he went crazy after that. Pretty much.
Yeah.
But he's a fascinating guy. There's already conspiracy theories being spread all over social media that he's not really dead. He's faked his death. There's all these things. So
did you see the ones that were tying it to the collapse of that building in Florida?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. So, so I don't even know what to think, but in the news related to cyber community, but
there will be lots of stories you can follow on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome.
Good stuff. All right, guys. Well,
thank you very much,
everybody. Thanks for coming along with us, Kevin, in your state that you're in. And
hope you feel better, Kevin.
Yeah. Oh, I will. I'm already, like I said, I'm feeling better today than I was the other day. So enjoy yourselves. Bye.
All right, guys. Take care. That's all for this week's show. Be sure to follow the Shared Security Show on Twitter and Instagram for the latest news and show updates. If you like this episode, please hit that like and subscribe button, and please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast listening app. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Show.